And there it is. Hi, everybody. I am very pleased to welcome you to the Speaker Insight Tuesday teaching session. We are talking today all about how to tell your story. My name is Helena.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are Speaker Insight, where we really help speakers, authors, and coaches to build what we call a portfolio business so that it works on your terms, so that you actively love working in it, but it makes you money too. So, on that basis, every Tuesday we love to teach you a little something. And so you might be joining us live, like Brian is. Hi, nice to see you. Brian's very excited, by the way. Sarah Heenan's here as well. I know this because we had a tiny conflab yesterday. We want to know about the buzz in your business. So, Brian, here you go. So, feel free to share what you shared yesterday. That's really rather cool. And for the rest of you, the buzz in your business is that intriguing, exciting, interesting thing that is happening for you in your business. What have you got going on? We would love to know. Um, and for those of you who are watching this later, because most of you actually watch later at your own leisure, whether you are cooking with us, whether you're taking notes studiously, we hope the latter, obviously. But, please do hashtag replay so that we know that you are paying attention and that you are getting what you need. We want to hear from you, especially if you've got questions around any of the content that we actively share out. Some of that conversation definitely happens inside the Connection Hub. So if you are not a member of our group with over 7,000, 7,000 or nearly 7,500, Kelly's shared the link for you, of speakers, authors, and coaches, and the people who support them. That's where the conversation really does take place. So please make sure that you've joined that in. And Kat's buzz in her business is she's putting the finishing touches to her website. I know this feeling. This is so much. Andrea's saying so much buzz right now. So feel free to take your pick of at least one that's exciting for you.
We might even refer to you today. Yes.
Yes,
Ooh.
which may even be quite interesting. So, because today we are absolutely telling you how to tell your story. But before we do that, the buzz in our business. Well, I'm feeling quite excited because over time, I think most of you know, Kelly and I run two other businesses. So we do this business, Speaker Insight, together.
One day
And
a week.
one day a week, that's exactly it. And then the rest of the time, I run a company called Helping You Shine. Kelly runs.
Stellar speakers.
And so,
BTNI.
yeah, that's exactly it. And so, we wear different hats. And I think with any brand, it is highly likely as you grow, your brand needs to sort of shift its shape a little bit. And I say that advisedly. The buzz in my business, in my Helping You Shine business, is I was really looking for a new bat signal. I was really looking for a new logo that actively kind of works with the brand that I've actually got. And through a wonderful lady called Marianne Hartley, she just created some conditions for me to do some serious thinking and feeling into what my bat signal would be. So I'm excited because that's coming together right now, and I'll be unveiling that somewhere in the next kind of week or two, which is very exciting.
And
What about?
Marianne is in the hub, and she's
Yeah.
a branding expert. So if
Oh,
anyone
and
wants
she's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So I cannot recommend the process that I went through with her enough, which is really rather good. What about you, Kelly? Buzz in your business?
I've got absolutely no bloody buzz in my business because I'm still on holiday. I basically normally take the whole of August off, and at the moment I am just touching base in with businesses one day a week. This is today, and the rest of the time I'm out enjoying time with family and traveling around. So I don't have much buzz to report other than I'm on holiday.
Well, and that in and of itself is buzz too. So Andrea's doing fame at last. I'm fainting here. Hashtag fangirl, which we really, really love. So let us do some teaching. There's about 15 of you kind of joining us live, which makes me very, very happy. So we're going to talk about your story today. We're going to talk about the fact that, your stories are vital. They have power. And so it's your vehicle. And when we talk about your story, we are talking about your why story, but we're also talking about the wider context of those stories. Because here's the thing, um, getting noticed, getting remembered is part of you, or part of you telling your story is really about sharing what is true for you, why you do what you do. But a lot of people, and this is what we're finding, kind of get stuck with just sharing the one story. And that isn't necessarily appropriate, because how you say it and how you tell it is the thing that helps you stand out from the crowd, because it drives business, it attracts people to you, whether it's collaborative partners, whether it's the clients that actively come to you. Your story has a lot of power, but only if you set it out well. So part of that is making sure that your story demonstrates your credibility. It shows your passion for the thing that you do, because 9 times out of 10 it's your passion and energy that sells people on you and what you do, rather than the words themselves. But your story also reveals the values that actually drive the content that you share. And your story absolutely must, and this is something that people tend to forget or they make assumptions about, it has to prove your ownership and your authority in some way. And so telling that in just one format kind of gets a bit staid and boring. So we wanted to help you change it up a little bit, because your job is to share your story far and wide so that people can resonate and buy into it and actively get along with you. So when you tell your story, it's got to be interesting, believable, and it absolutely must galvanize action in some way. So they need to be able to connect to you. They need to understand what's going on, but they also need to take action, they being your avatar or your ideal clients in some way, or the people who are looking to book you if you were doing the speaking. So sometimes that's about an inner shift that you're supporting people to actually make through your story. Sometimes it's a demonstration of hope and possibility. Andrea saying nothing. And sometimes it is actually more of you presenting your framework or a tangible solution in some way, because your story 9 times out of 10 gives permission from you to others, almost by osmosis. It's like, oh, if they can do it, or if that's possible, then it might be possible for me too in some way. And so your story has power. So we just wanted to make it a little bit more interesting for you to share your story and share some different ways, right?
And that's going to help people like Heidi, who's saying that she's a startup. She wants to share her story, that she lives with autism. So we're going to give you 6 different ways potentially to tell that story. And these aren't all the ways that you can tell your story, but they're ones that we find that are really useful for speakers, authors, and coaches to have in their kit bag to pull out ready when the time is right, or actually to seed and plan into those opportunities when you are being interviewed, when you are speaking. So congrats on Jo for her buzz, is that she's created a quiz and a free report for her nurture sequence.
Amazing.
And I'm not even going to comment on Andrea's comment there. I'm going to, we are not mean. We would never do that.
For sure.
So as I said to Heidi, what we're going to do today is actually go through these 6 different types of stories to start stimulating those nostalgic feelings, but also learn how to use them. And the reason why we want you to highlight these stories is because, as Helena said, what they do is they bring your content to life. Mm-hmm. They illustrate points in a way where people are much more open and susceptible to hearing it. Anytime anyone says, oh, I'm going to tell you a story, everyone sort of sits back. It's like Jack and Nori gets their hot chocolate, much more than a sales pitch, or even like, or do I have permission to blah, 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 none of that rubbish, right? But the other thing which I think is really useful, and especially for people like me who are complete left brain, geeky, structural people, is that it helps your delivery style. Mm-hmm. So completely honest, this is why I don't do a lot of professional speaking. But if I do, I'm quite bland and boring, because I just want to talk about the detail and the structure and how you can do it. And so for people that want that, I'm their dream. But for people who are like, God, where's the emotion in this girl? Where's the detail around what built this up? I've had to learn, and this was something that Helena and I had spent a long time doing, mm-hmm. our different stories, and actually where our stories combined on our journeys. For sure. And then when you break the facts and the structure and the detail up with a story, it contextualizes it, but it also makes much more people open to listening to that. So your story is, the comments are going, Helena, so I'm going to let you read them.
You just do this bit and I'll then do the comments, because there's some really cool stories about awesome buzz that's actually going on, which is tying in with what we're talking about. So it's all good.
So we want your story to cover who you are, what you've done, how you've done it. And also we want it to make sure that it covers your approach, your delivery style, your framework, your IP, all those lessons that you've learned from those. And so we have done Facebook Lives previously on these types of topics. We've done one on how to position yourself as an expert, which talks about, you know, your experience, your qualifications, your research. So if you want to get more confidence around being an expert in your field and how to position yourself, go and watch that one. And Helene is going to put some links in for me. And then the other one is much more factual, which is about another way of using your story, which is in your bio. Yeah. Your professional bio. So we're not going to talk about those bits, which is like your style and your approach and all those types of things that need to be in there, even though I would say those 2 Facebook Lives will create the foundations of the information you're going to now use and bring into these stories that we're going to help you create some material from today.
So before you continue with this one, just because I know where you're headed, so I'm just going to squeeze in these 2 comments because I know where you're headed, and it actually kind of completely and utterly fits in with the first type of story that you're about to do. So Brian's saying the buzz in his business is that his mindset is completely changing me this last week as I become more professional with developing our new website, Biz Social Networking, and sort of it goes live and international this week. So helping all the small business owners and entrepreneurs globally with their online presence. Plus, after 15 years of sharing my life story on stages, I've invested in writing my book, The Life of Brian.
Life of Brian, love
exactly, which includes abuse, children's home, homelessness, and 20 years of mental.
Awesome. Love that.
So there's a lot kind of going on in there. And then Haley, who's joining us from South Africa, we absolutely love a little bit of that. Haley's story is really all around. Hang on a second. Wait, there we go. Nope, stop. The buzz for her is she's in the process of launching her online coaching business and creating the freebie explaining her 7-step framework for creating videos in the business. So this live has come at the right time as she's also creating her landing page and need help sharing who I am and what my story is. So Kelly's going to help you by the first type of story. So off you go, hun.
What I want to say before we go over these 6 types is that you might not have material for all of them, right?
For sure.
You might not experience them all. So, but what we'll know you're going to have a material for a good few of them. And we want to make sure that you've identified that and that you are using it, right? We all have this juicy past, but actually if you're hearing a lot of the time, I never knew that about you, or whatever, then you're not actively marketing probably the uniqueness of you, because that's why stories come into play, because nobody has your story. I mean, nobody definitely has Brian's story. It's not going to be the Monty Python version. It is going to be his version, but do you see what I mean? Nobody can encroach on that and steal that, and that is your uniqueness. That's your individual fingerprint or footprint.
For sure.
So, the first one, as always with our trainings, please have pen and paper so you can make some notes and make sure which ones you want to follow up with.
Yeah.
The first one that all of you will have is your founding story, right? What I mean by founding story is how, when, and why did you start your company up or start being an individual practitioner, a sole trader, whatever it might be. How, when, and why, right? Because this story is something which gives context into why you do something. It's really important. The places when people will ask for this story are when you are pitching. So say, for example, you're pitching for investment, you're pitching to bring partners onto board or sponsors on board in your company. They are going to want to know the essence, the reason why you exist. And what I would encourage you to do is to ensure that your own personal why, your purpose, aligns to the why and the vision or the mission of your company.
For sure.
And so what's really important to include in this founding story isn't just, in 1963, we set it up and, not the factual bit. Remember, this is a story. So what you want to do is you want the details of, what was the turning point for you to make this decision? Did you have any choice in it, or was it just literally, this is fate and it had to happen?
Yeah.
What was the need that you identified in your industry that showed you that you had to do this, right? Is whether it's a consumer need, cultural need, what was going on, that you had the solution and you had to do this. So what was the identified need, and what is your unique selling position, USP, that you bring to this that actually competes and stands out against other people that are doing it in your industry? Because when you understand that there's an emotional connection, a vision, a purpose, of why, that's there. Then you show that there's consumer demand and need for it. That's there. And then you go, and this is why I'm different to everybody else, and this is why you should invest in me, come on board with me, work with me. And through all of that, when you tell the story, your passion is going to be, firing on all cylinders, because it's aligned to you, because you're not doing this isn't going to work, guys, if you're just going to say, well, I set this company up because I saw there was a gap in the market and the stocks were going high, and I thought then you're not, good on you, right? But you're not our avatar. Our avatar are change makers who are thought leaders and speakers, authors, and coaches with a vision and a message and want to make a difference. And what they're doing is not giving them enough substance or lifestyle to do this as full-time on their terms, which is why we're so passionate about helping you with the strategy and all that foundation stuff to enable you to go and shine your light, right? So I'm not going to get off my high horse, because I'm going to go into our founding story if I do, but you really want to feel that you're including these parts in your founding story.
And I am, well, I'm obviously going to riff off the back of that rather than go straight into the other type of story, because founding stories are vital. And the thing is that, so I'm just going to share Carrie's as well.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. Founding stories are the driver. If you think of it as the driver that made you make the decision to go and actively commit to setting up your business. So it's a really, it may have taken years, and that's part of the story. It may have taken several iterations, a bit like I was just talking about the brand. I started with one tiny little bit, and it was only, sort of the driver for that. Interestingly, I will always say to you that it comes from two different sets of passions. There's either this desire to do good in the world, or, dare I say it, you just get pissed off with something, and you get really kind of pissed off with it enough for you to go, God damn it, why isn't anybody doing anything? And then you keep saying that, and eventually you look around and you go, oh, it's me that needs to do something.
I need to be the change in the world. Oh, right, okay.
Exactly. So I am just going to say that, feel free to bring that level of passion in, because that's the thing that makes people go, they are committed. And your founding story is really proof that you are committed, but it also gives context to why you're actively doing what you're doing. So I'm just going to say what Carrie's saying, and then I'll tell you the second type of story. So Carrie's saying, I'm in the process of leaving singing teaching and growing the voice training for speaking. I've been talking about the factual story, so this is really helpful. Thank you. So Carrie, for you, that's exactly it. So putting that emotional context in behind why you're switching singing teaching through to the voice training for speaking. Somewhere you've seen a need, somewhere inside of you've gone, hang on a minute, there's a bigger picture in this way. That's actually what people will engage with even more. And it gives context. Again, I'm going to keep saying that, gives context for why you do what you do. And that's the thing that helps people engage, right? So now I'm going to get off my little kind of bit.
Sharing that, Brian, that opportunity for people can connect with you. And I know you're in the hub too. So.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's great. Beautiful. So Brian, feel free. So inside the Connection Hub, that's exactly it. So putting a post up for #opportunity, that's exactly where to do something like that, which would be good. So Kelly's talked about the first type of story, and Heidi's just saying, when I do talk to the connection with the audience is paramount. And so this is exactly what we're talking about here. So first type of story, your founding story. You need to nail the elements of that, go back, revisit it, because more and more nuance will come from it. And you can do the short 2-minute version as well as the longer version, as well as the whole keynote around it, as that becomes relevant. So all of these are what I call, so all of them are what I call concertina, sort of like, so you, if you think about it, if we gave you 15 minutes to talk about your story, you would take it. But if we gave you 2, you would also take it and you would hone down to the minimum point. So having it concertina or accordion kind of style is a really, really important thing. So
For
second
any
type
of
of
these
story,
stories.
for
For
sure,
any
for
of these
sure.
stories.
For sure. So the second type of story, this is your results or your case study type stories. So you must always, as you work with your clients, you must always be on the lookout for, who is a great example that you are working with that goes through your transformational process, whether it's the tiny user journey starting point where they just go from A to B, or whether it's actually that A to Z kind of, total transformation piece in that way. So we recommend that you have a few different of these stories because they actually, if you think about your user journey, and if you don't know what one of those is, then you
Go
need to
back to
come
our
and be in
previous
our world.
training.
Yeah, you need to be in our world a little bit more, and like, let's help you with that. So just reach out for that one. But it's about highlighting the different results, the different products, the different stages of where your avatar actually is. So that again, it's this resonance, it's this emotional connection to, hang on a minute, that sounds like me. That person went through or was going through the struggle or the angst around that piece. That sounds like me. Let me listen a little bit more. This is where you bring the story to life of that transformation. You paint the picture of where they were to where they are. Now, if you're a weight loss coach, that could well be, sort of like there's a dramatic visual shift that you actively share. They went from, you only need to look at the magazines to go, here's one picture and here's the transform picture, and you get that. Your job is to start using and collecting the stories and show and share how that works, whether you're a business transformation coach, whether you are, teaching people voice, sort of as Heidi's just sort of saying, that's not Heidi, that's Carrie. Sorry, Heidi, apologies. Whether it is indeed the not coping to coping story that you've got. Your job is to really extract the details and use those details to actively say, this is how it was. And through using whatever it is your magic is, this is how it now is. You're painting that picture of how people might go, that's me, and how people might go, oh, that's what I want. That's what I desire. So demonstrating that A to B or A to Z transformation is really what your results and case studies do. And you want to do your best to kind of do the 2 or 3 different types of story that relate to your avatar with the problem that they've got in front of them. I know many of you have seen me do this, but there may just be some demonstrations of the different levels at which people are at and how you do those. So you want a few of those in your bag.
The next one is loss and gain story. Now, some of you will relate to this and some of you won't have this. So I'm going to give you a couple of versions of how all of you can bring in an element of it. Because the importance of this story is actually for your avatar and your audience to believe that they can do what you've achieved or what you're helping them with, right? That's the point of a loss and gain story, because a lot of people have the objections and obstacles. Oh, yes, but you've got this, you are this, I can't do this because blah, blah, blah. And the loss is normally saying, look, I had to really struggle to work at this. And because I've done that, I'm now here and I can teach you how to fast track that. So you might, as the big well-known entrepreneurs of the world, like Richard Branson and people like that who have lost it all and gained it all, they have these stories. Lots of people I know, especially who are change makers and thought leaders, have normally experienced, or not normally, but have often experienced a health problem, a real crisis in their life, which completely shifts their plan, their focus, their purpose, their direction. And that's why they now do what they do. So there could be something around that you do, that you can tell. And if you do, I don't tell my story very often, but a lot of the time, there was an interview I did with Inspirit Global recently, where I did share this, and people are like, oh, I didn't know that about you, which is what we were saying earlier, where, I did 10 years ago, get a rare disease, was in a coma, went blind, lost my hair, lost my house, my money, everything, blah, 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 and had to build everything back up again from scratch. So that is that, and completely not redefine my life, but work, how we are working now than how I was working before. Sure. So if you've got that story, tell it, because it really instills people's beliefs that, oh God, one, it's possible, and two, actually, that person has probably learnt a lot and fast tracked, so I don't have to go through the pain that they went through in order to achieve it. Now, if you don't have a story like that, I can probably guarantee you that you have mini stories on the amount of money that you spent training in what you do or learning all the various personal development stuff, whatever it might be. You might have been burnt in your industry. You might have actually had a nasty experience which you want to safeguard people from experiencing themselves. You might have made mistakes. I mean, we've all made mistakes, right? So we can talk about those mistakes and embellish them and actually, say that this is what I don't want you to do. And I'm sure many of us have tried lots of alternative things in our industry and then worked out, well, that worked, but it was only short term, but only when you add my little bit to it is really lasting change going to happen. So these are all the things that you're learning, which you can say to your audience, that you tell the story of what the journey is that you've been on, so that you can fast track the experience for them, so they don't have to go through as much pain, money, time, which are the three main things that people want to avoid.
Yeah.
And also you build their self-belief that they can do it. Okay. Sure. So think about your loss and gain story. And I know there were some comments coming in.
Yeah. So Elizabeth's story, and I absolutely adore it. So she's coming off the back of the founding story, the pissed offness. So, but it also ties in a little bit with what you're talking about here, but it's mainly about that founding story. So she says, I got pissed off with crappy rip-off plastic spiritual courses and ghastly ego-driven prats. So doing it myself, value-driven, generous, humorous, bridging shamanic tools and beliefs with practical world application. No fluff, no guff, no gurus allowed, not from your not your normal mystic. And I just love that, but can you hear? So I love this, and I wanted to read that out. Not terribly well by the looks of things, but I wanted to read that out because that's exactly, I think most of you will get that there's a deep connection immediately. You know who Elizabeth is. You know that there's no fluff right then and there. And that's what we're talking about. Your story and the way that you set it out actively allows that to happen. So thank you, Elizabeth, for being a beautiful demonstration. And then you've got a more tempered version from Julie Nielsen. I like to let people know I'm not techie, but I still produce videos so they can too. Also, and I know what that takes from Julie. So, that whole kind of, there's almost a gain somewhere in there around. It is so important for me for people to look good on video that I will go through the pain of actually doing it myself so that I'm a role model for that. And that actively works. I'm just going to finish that.
But that's the bit that she says next about being shy. That's the bit where people go, oh, okay, you're not someone that just thinks being on camera is the normal and, you're all happy about that. You can relate to your avatar 100%, and the techniques that calm you down, that make you feel more confident, and they're going to warm to you if they are more introverted, if they're shy, if they don't like themselves on camera. You're going to be the go-to person. So that's really good illustration of the connection point that's made.
And it's interesting because there's actually a little bit of loss and gain in Julie's story just there. It's this whole kind of like, whew, I'm going to gain the following that I want, the reach that I want by actually kind of almost losing the hesitancy, the imposter syndrome, the whatever you want to call it, that actively goes in there. So people are loving these examples, which is really good. So
come on.
So let me do story number 4. So we've talked about founding stories. We've talked about results and case study stories. We've talked about loss and gain stories. Let me talk to you a little bit about the visionary story, because sometimes it's actually about you setting out the future. Sometimes it's about, where you share your vision for the future in order to really galvanize and energize and excite people about what is possible. This is your mission story. This is you actively. If I gave you a loudhailer and I said, go tell your story, this is the one that excites you probably more than others.
A loudhailer? What's that? Yeah. A megaphone?
Yes. Obviously, this is a generational thing. I'm 12 years older than Kelly, for those of you that don't know. So this is obviously, we talk about this because we're both monkeys in the Chinese kind of zodiac, but I happen to be 12 years ahead of her. So, there's all sorts of wonderful things. Yes, a loudhailer. What's wrong with a loudhailer? Please tell me others understand. Please tell me others explain. Well, don't show your age, but anyway, I'm going to talk to you about visionary stories. Honestly, seriously. Right. So here's the thing, right? You have a vision. All of you as change makers, I'm going to assume if you're watching this, you are a change maker. You have a heart that actively wants to make a difference in the world. Your vision story, your visionary story is the one that attracts the like-valued, like-minded people, because it makes them go, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of something bigger. I want to belong to something. And 9 times out of 10, the change makers are the placeholders for that mission, that vision. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. So
Absolutely.
you. Okay, good. So, not just me. Thank you very much. I'm going to find you some pictures later. But here's the thing, right? It allows you, telling your visionary story allows you to call people to you. It allows you to do enrollment rather than sales, because people get that there is substance behind what you're actually wanting to do. You are painting the vision of, this is how the world could be if we only, in my case, trusted ourselves and each other more. Sort of like if we raised the consciousness of the planet more. Insert your own sentence here. But your job is to really go with your loudhailer and shout that out in the world. Neil Fellows is a monkey too. How amazing is that? Oh my word. But so this is you doing it's slightly altruistic. It's slightly this whole kind of, so it shows that you aren't just about the sales. You aren't just, as Kelly was just saying, oh, I've seen that's a good niche. I shall make some money in that. That's not what it's about. It's about the mission. And, whilst you work hard at it, we are big believers in working hard at ensuring that your business is working for you so that it works on your terms and you're putting the right things in there. It is about you kind of, the money almost comes second to it. And that's part of this visionary story. Our job, Kelly's and my job, is to ensure that both work together. But it's about you really sharing that story so that you can say to people, you really do care and you need their support and their participation in order to make this vision a reality. You can't do this on your own because it's bigger than who you be, and it's bigger than who everybody else bees as well. But you need everybody's engagement in it to set that sail. So that's where you really set yourself up to be the leader. And for some of you, that's the gulp point here from this type of story. It's you claiming your space and being the leader that you be. So welcome to those of you who are stepping into this space.
So penultimate one. This is the rock bottom story. Or if you haven't hit rock bottom, your why story. Now, sometimes this gets the name of, I've heard this, I think it might have been Andrew Eggleton that introduced me to this term, where he said it's called the dead dog story.
I think that's right.
Where this is where, this has been known for speakers to be in their flow, and then suddenly they have perfected the art of crying on demand, being able to articulate this hard, down and out story in order to actually manipulate emotionally their audience, which is not what we're talking about. We are not talking about orchestrating a dead dog story in order to make sales. The beauty of a why or a rock bottom story is vulnerability, right? In this day and age where we are overwhelmed with information, people are accessible all the time and they're showing their best side all the time. What happens when somebody actually shows the rawness, the realness, the truth, the vulnerability of who they be, it drops people into their hearts. You can always hear it in an auditorium where people are actually being truthful. People connect, they instantly connect, right? So this is a way to build a deep connection. And also, in my opinion, what it shows is that you've earned the right to be in the position that you're in, that leader that Helena was telling about, because you've been there, you've got the scars, the t-shirt, worn the t-shirt, got all the lessons, whatever you can say about it. This shows that you're real. And what it actually illustrates is that you're human. Because what people often say when they see the beautiful videos that Julie might create for you, of course she's going to show you in your best light.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should rock up and, not look in our best light, but it's the voice that comes across when you're looking good and appearing good and looking professional. That is the bit that people go, oh my God, that person cares. And that's the difference, I probably say, with all the clients that we have.
Yeah.
The feedback that we get is that, oh, you don't just create a sausage factory where people come in as clients and there are numbers, and then once you're done with them, you never forget about them. You forget about them. You guys really care that you want us to succeed as much as what they want to as individuals. And I'm sure most of you listening will get that feedback too, because that's what an essence of a change maker is. You want to invoke change in people or in the world. And with that, there's a level of purpose alignment and a level of care. So, we have been, I think Andrea's still on the call, but, in our Changemaker group, we give people lots of advice, and Andrea's just put together her why video. And it's actually a combination of a rock bottom and a why video, which is why she's the perfect example. And I'm sure when she feels ready in this thread or whenever, put the link if you want to, Andrea, to your why video to inspire people of what we would consider to be an excellent illustration of this type of story.
Yeah.
But also to inspire people about your story, because I know that, already in the group, it's inspired, in our Changemaker group, it's inspired a lot of people.
Yeah.
So think about how you can be raw, real, truthful, and vulnerable in talking about your story. And this is sometimes the hardest thing for people, because this is where you might disclose things that you might not want people to know about, right? But actually that's the bit that matters, because that's the bit that makes people think, I understand why I'm drawn to work with that person, why I want to work with that person. I relate, I feel the compassion, the care, and they're my cup of tea. And with the polished appearance of, I've earned 6 figures, blah, 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 that's not what connects people. I don't know what you're laughing at.
So I'm laughing at Andrea saying, ooh, call me excellent again.
Yeah, we call you excellent all the time. Shut up, stop wanting more fishing compliments.
That's right, enough already.
Yeah, and Deb was saying there that, claiming some people that do the dead dog story, okay? But unfortunately, it's one of those things. And that's when you can smell it a mile off, when a speaker is basically put on that fake crying thing. So don't feel that you're going to be tarred with the same brush when you tell your story in this way. Because even in Andrea's video is very composed and very compassionate. So she's not crying her eyes out, but oh my God, do you feel it, right? You are there with her in the story. So make sure that, don't think I'm going to be seen as those people. You're just being true to you, and we can tell. Everyone can tell.
It absolutely makes sense. Leah, better late than never. Maybe the underdog story is the one that's going to help you.
We're on the last story, Leah.
That's completely fine. This is actually how I read books. I kind of open it up in the middle, kind of go towards the end, and then actually start. That's sometimes what I need to do. Maybe you're just doing that kind of version of it. But we hope you're getting that your story is composed of different elements, and you can do different angles on it for different audiences in that way. So
sorry, I missed Heidi's comment, which is really
I was just going to say,
So she had a group of parents in tears because they could relate to what she said, right? And that's exactly the bit. It's that relational, the connection, the empathy. They understand that you're their type of person.
Yeah. So
why are people saying echo?
I don't know what's happened. I heard the echo too, which is really weird. So I'm just going to keep on talking, and I don't hear an echo right now. So just let me know that that's okay, and I'll tell you about the underdog story. I'm just going to keep going. Excellent. Wonderful. No echo. Yay. Hurrah. Phew. So let's not cross over and then just kind of tempt technology. I've definitely been having some fun with technology. So let's not talk about that today. So now, I'm about to talk to you about the underdog story, which may sound a little bit like that rock bottom story that we've actually sort of got in here. So here's the thing: everybody loves an underdog, right? Sort of it's that whole kind of it's not quite rags to riches. It's gone now. You see, honestly, gremlins, I tell you. But it's this perseverance. It's the demonstration of oh my God, you went from what to what? It's the perseverance, the dedication, that perception of, oh, you're an overnight success. Yeah, that's so not true. It's like 10 to 14 years in the making is what actually kind of works into. So if you've got an underdog story where you've gone up against a giant, so back to that kind of pissed off that I started with right at the very beginning, 9 times out of 10 the underdog story starts because somebody couldn't find something, or there wasn't something in place that they actively then took up the baton and went, I'm going to be the person who's going to be a stand for that. And it's usually quite hard in some way. They start to live. People love a story like that, because it's hooking, and it's got drama. It's like a movie in and of itself. It's got that passion and the I did it beyond all odds type of thing. But it doesn't have to be dramatic, and that's actually the beauty of it. So I do want to, like, one of my favorite stories is actually the Ben and Jerry story. So if you don't know the Ben and Jerry story, they Ben Cohen, Jerry Greenfield, I think that's who it is. Like, they learned to make ice cream, right? And they took a $5 correspondence course from like Penn State University or something, and they went, ice cream, right? Love ice cream, totally love ice cream. And they scraped together the 12 grand that sort of started. I think they started in some little kind of shack or a hut or something like that, sort of a gas station, something like that, sort of forgive me for the details kind of around this, but I love the story. So it's this. Oh, Patricia's saying mine is both underdog and visionary. Good. I'm glad that you're starting to sort of see how all of these are beginning to fit together. So anyway, by 1980 or so, sort of a couple of years later, they were driving throughout New England with a Volkswagen kind of van, dropping off their ice cream to like tiny stores everywhere, to the point where, and this is how it's an underdog story, to the point where some bigger company that also did the same, in this instance Pillsbury's cookie dough, really starts to go, hang on a minute, this is a bit dangerous. Who are these people?
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how should we do this? And I from memory, like, sort of, I think it was so Pillsbury does cookie dough, and they did some ads that were like, who's the doughboy afraid of? Sort of, they were actually doing that type of thing. Now, that actually shows you, in terms of your underdog story, that shows you that you're onto something and you're actually growing it. And I believe, from memory, again, this is just to demonstrate that, like, just because you have a small start doesn't mean you can't actively go big in the world. I think they sold it for over 300 million pounds, like $326 million or something. Dollars. Unilever bought out Ben and Jerry's. So this is that whole, like, over the course of 22 years, 28 years or so, they started as an underdog. They started as we're just going to make ice cream because we learned how to make ice cream. We love ice cream. We love ice cream. If you've ever seen them, it's absolutely brilliant. Like, they love ice cream, right? So that passion, founding stories, but also that underdog, part of the underdog story then starts to take over around, this is how we got to be one of the big boys, so to speak. So
that bit there, because I think many of us are tarnished with that overnight success thing. Oh my God, you came out of nowhere, and they think that you had it all, wrapped up in 6 months, like the last decade, and actually now it's only you broke through and people are starting to recognize. And that's similar when you hear like the stories about J.K. Rowling and how many publishers turned her down before she got the deal and stuff like that. So this is what Helena was saying about the persistence, the perseverance, the commitment, the dedication. And again, it's coming back to the right, and the fact that you're so connected to your why and your founding story and your purpose that there is no option to make this happen.
Yeah.
Right. So Yeah, go on.
It's yeah, no, so our invitation to you, exactly as Patricia's just said, mine is both underdog and visionary, is to extract your different versions. You may not have one of each of these stories, but the richer, the more you can actually delve into the stories that occur in your business, the easier it is for you to enroll and enlist people into your way of doing things, of showing up for people. But it also means that you get to not be boring by rolling out the same story over and
Yeah,
over.
but
Uh, uh,
it enriches that delivery style that I was saying at the beginning. I
for
think it
sure.
was Heidi that was saying about, the fact that, if you're quite a detailed strategy and you need to bring that stuff to life,
Yeah.
these stories help. But I also want you to think about where these stories would show up best. Have
Yeah.
you got podcasts coming up? Have you got a keynote coming up? Can you put some of these in the about page of your website?
For
Can you
sure.
do the video and have that, the why purpose video, on the about side of your website or on your YouTube banner or whatever it might be? Because these are the points of connection that
For sure.
stand you out, that make you unique, and build the rapport with your audience of trust and the
Yeah.
fact that they know that you really care.
Yeah.
So go through the list, think out of the 6, what have I got material for? Do what Helena said before, make a concertina approach, a 2-minute story about it and a 15-minute story about it for each one. Have them documented, and when you're about to go and do a keynote or an engagement of some kind, pick out which ones am I going to have at the ready to tell if I get asked that question.
For sure. And it really kind of works. I'm really pleased to see you, Tally, because I was literally thinking about you yesterday. You made my connect to Tally list. So I'm really pleased to see you here, and I love the distinction that you're making. So I'm just going to go back and kind of say this. This is where I am struggling. I don't want pity. I want to empower. There's a fine line, and that's about your story. That's about how you tell the story, because how you deliver it will create the emotion, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about all of you harnessing your end result of kind of really enrolling people into your mission, your vision, into becoming clients, etc., but using your story to absolutely galvanize them into the action that you desire for them. So Tally, reach out inside Changemaker, because honey, you're in there, and you made my thinking list, so here you are. I love that I can call people just by thinking. It's brilliant. So go and write your stories. You may not have all of these, but now start to be on the lookout for, because I bet they exist. It's just you've never thought about them before. So go and make your stories, and do tell us. We're about to sign off, but tell us, what's your biggest takeaway from today's learning? What are you going to go and do as a result of this? I love an action taker. Oh,
share
God,
your
what?
stories in the hub, right?
Yes.
See how you can connect with people with your stories, as long as there's no promo links and things like that. I mean, there are people do it all the time in the hub when they introduce themselves.
Sure.
So do it that way, rather than be factual about, I earn this job, I have this company. Tell your story.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you, Andrew. We are delighted that you are enjoying, and indeed that it is useful for us to do these. On that note, 48 minutes in, let's finish, Kelly.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.